Welcome to the Jeff Knows Inc. Entrepreneurial Show with your host, Jeff Lopes.
We are live on the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. Super excited to have on today, James Lowe. What is up, brother?
Hey, man. Good to see you. I'm in California. You're in Toronto. Let's go.
We met through a mutual friend, Brad, Big Bad Brad. And it's going to be a fun conversation. James is all about baseball. I'm all about baseball. I've had a couple of baseball guests on in the past, and this is a different angle because James is an instructor, and we're going to learn a little bit about his history and have a fun conversation today. So let's start off, man. Where did baseball start with you? What age and how did you fall in love with baseball?
Yeah. So I grew up in North Carolina. I got two older brothers and a dad. That really taught me the game of baseball. We spent hours in the backyard playing with a tennis ball or a broomstick, whatever we could get our hands on. And then mom would call us in for dinner, and we'd have to clean our shoes off from the Carolina red clay. And that was my childhood. I watched a lot of Chicago Cubs games on WGN. I became obsessed with sports at a young age. And then as I got into high school, I narrowed it down from basketball and football and soccer and baseball to baseball, and got to college, got into a place called Brown University. I don't know how, because I worked hard in school, but it's so hard to get in there, especially these days. But I snuck my way into an Ivy League school. And the reason I went there is I thought I had a chance to play 4 years. I wanted to start all 4 years at a college, and I got that opportunity. So I played outfield 4 years there, and then I was ready to go play pro ball. That was my dream as a kid, and here we go. Who's calling? And the phone did not ring, and so I had to kind of take a detour, and the detour has kind of led me to my destiny. And that's coaching kids. I moved from Providence, Rhode Island, straight to California at the age of 22. And I had a buddy that was doing baseball camps. And I said, well, that sounds fun. I like kids. I like coaching. I love baseball, and I have no idea what I want to do with my life. So, moved out West and started coaching, and had other interests out of college. I studied theater arts, and I studied writing, and I studied improvisation. I was in a band. So I had all these artistic, creative loves. And then I played baseball. So LA seemed right. Let's go there. Let's audition. Let's play drums in a few different bands. Let's wait tables. Let's substitute teach. Let's pay the rent somehow. And the common thread through all of that in my 20s was this baseball gig, was coaching baseball. And I really treat my 20s as my grad school. That's where I learned how to coach. That's where my name, Jimmy Ball Game, from college, that was my nickname in college, turned into Coach Ball Game. And I had some really good mentors. A teammate of mine from Brown, Dan Spring, who still coaches baseball in the LA area. He and a guy from Stanford, Sean Flicky, they really mentored me. They showed me what a great coach can do. Like, a good coach can change a game, but a great coach really tries to change lives. And so they taught me how to make it fun and look through the lens of building character as opposed to having to win a little league game. And then I met my wife, and we moved to Orange County, California, and she gave me that shove that I needed to do what I do now, which is coach ball game. And that's just coach camps all summer and coach these things called Sandlots in the evenings. They're after school programs, and it's really taken off.
That's in a nutshell. Let's talk about a couple of things there. When you said making the game fun, if you look at a lot of coaching nowadays and a lot of the younger generation, when you talk about anywhere from 9 to 13 or 12, are you a believer into playing multiple sports, or just really honing on into one?
100%. Yeah. Multiple sports. I always use Mike Trout as an example. Yeah. How is he such a great outfielder now? Well, he was an all-state basketball player in high school. How was Jackie Robinson able to steal so many bases and be able to play so many different positions? He was a 4-sport athlete at UCLA. When you're specializing in one sport too early, they get burnt out, like mentally. Mentally, they're like, oh, this just feels like work. It's the same thing over and over again. I think I'd like to go swim or play ping pong or just be a kid. So really adamant about pushing multiple sports. And then secondly, what happens is you get so dialed into just that one lane that when you get to college or when you get to minor league ball and a coach asks you to take a good step with your left foot on a fly ball to right center, you don't really have that tool in your tool pouch to say, ooh, I did this playing outside linebacker in football, or I did this playing defense in basketball. So you gain so much from just playing all the sports and then seeing what sticks. And the kids will tell the parents what they love. You don't really have to push them down a certain road. They're going to let you know pretty quick by their physicality and body language. And, man, I really want to go play basketball right now, Dad. I love this game. Let's do it. As opposed to, walking slowly towards the soccer pitch and I don't think I like this game. They'll let you know what they love and then just push them to chase that as hard as they want to. But yeah, I would say play multiple sports into high school. I had to narrow it down from a 3-sport, basketball, football, and baseball. When I got to 11th grade, just football and baseball, because I saw the writing on the wall. Baseball was going to be my ticket to college, and basketball made me, I was late for basketball because of football, and then I was late for baseball because of basketball. So I narrowed it down to 2, and then freshman year of college, I narrowed it down to 1. But there you go.
Yeah, very, very cool. Let's talk about, there's a lot of things I want to talk about with you today. I think you'll have some knowledge on. A lot of people, when they get drafted, they don't, or their goal for making to the majors and getting drafted or coming out of college and getting drafted, they don't have a true understanding of the minor league system and how grueling that could be. I'm assuming you've had friends that have gone through the minor league system.
Yes,
yeah, I've had many friends too that have gone through the minor league system. Let's talk about it a little bit, because I was actually talking to a couple single A and double A guys that I was actually going to get on the podcast, because I wanted, I guess, the audience to understand the gruel they go through and how hard it is, and those hotels and those motels and 2-3 guys in a room and getting a $5 budget on food and living off macaroni and whatever you possibly can to get through. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how grueling and how difficult it is to make it up through the system, through the A, double A, triple A. Well, when you get triple A, you're pretty close, but the single A, it's a high single A and the double A level.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak from experience, but I've listened to a lot of friends talk about it, and you have to have another job. That's one. You got to have another job in the off season, because you're really just getting food money, and you are living out of a suitcase. So all of my friends, they got jobs coaching high schools or middle schools or kids camps or Lowe's Hardware or painting. So that just comes with the territory in those early stages of it. And then, the grind is real, and you have to be in love with it. And you really have to love how hard it is. You have to love that process of how difficult the grind is. And I think if you love that process, if you love taking buckets and buckets of ground balls and batting practice off the tee, like when you're not working at the grocery store to pay rent, if you love that grind, then you're ready for it, and you've got a shot. But we all know the percentages. Out of 100 kids you see at a Little League game today, 0 of them are going to make it to the show. Out of the thousands of ball players you see at a high school all-star tournament, 1% of them are going to make it to the minor leagues and no less the major leagues. And then, when you're looking at these college teams right now, maybe 2% of all the teams left in these high caliber colleges will make it to the show. So good chance of getting drafted. I didn't. I was an all Ivy outfielder, but 5'10" and mediocre at everything doesn't get you there. So the best of the best of the best will get a shot, and then very few of them will make it. So it really comes down to, do you love the grind enough to deal with the fast food, lots of fast food, lots of bus rides and all that stuff. But yeah, there's no glamour whatsoever until you get to the show. And then there's no promises you're going to stay there past a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So making it to arbitration, making it to a place where you can actually make a living as a baseball player, there's no doubt about it. It's a gamble, it's a gamble. Let's spend our 20s trying to do this. So honestly, there were so many players that I played with that were way better than me, more talented than me, and they did get drafted, and they played a few years of minor league ball, and then they went into a different line of work. I'm kind of blessed that I didn't even get that carrot. I was told, okay, your days are through. You can play men's league softball if you'd like, but it's time to figure something else out. And that's why I went down the coaching route.
Did you have any inspirations even trying to play like an international league or something like that, or you didn't even try for anything like that?
I did a little bit. I did a little bit of independent ball and just kind of men's league Sunday baseball. But at that point, I was ready for a new chapter. It wasn't exciting anymore. There wasn't anything. There wasn't a regional bid or a College World Series, spot up for grabs anymore. It was just, hey, let's stay in shape. So I was ready to move on. I love golf, so that's where I get my competitive juices flowing. And it was time to start impacting kids.
Do you have children of your own?
I got 2 daughters, 8 and 4, and they're dancers, and they're dancing right now. And I just asked them to be nice and quiet during a podcast. I have a podcast of my own, so they know. They call it my radio show, and they have to dance quietly and sing quietly. But have they taught me a lot about coaching and just life, having an 8 and 4-year-old daughters.
What is it? What does the word fatherhood mean to you?
Sacrifice, selfless, present. Like that's what they're yearning for. That's what they ask for, is for you to be present.
I always say that. Play
with me.
You got to look down at your feet and know where you are at all times, especially around your kids.
Oh,
you're 24/7 indirectly mentoring them without realizing it. Everything you say, every way you treat somebody else, the way you open a door, the way you smile at somebody, they're constantly mimicking or learning from your process. So you're indirectly mentoring them 24/7. So you have to be aware of that, and you have to be present, because there's so many stats out there. They say between from birth to pretty much 18 is your time with them. I mean, they say 80 to 90% of the face time you have with kids before the age of 18. So you think of stats like that. And my daughter, I got a 14, 16-year-old. My daughter just turned 16. And she's a high performance dancer. I just did a post yesterday. She just did her last competition of the season yesterday. And she's been at dance since she was 4 years old. So it's, you realize that I'm looking at her, and she's already at 16 talking about college and talking about where she wants to go. And she's a pure entrepreneur, and she's talking about getting out of Ontario, where we're from, and she wants to head to BC or something for college and all this. And I'm like, oh God. And I'm like, I probably got a couple more years of steady FaceTime with her before she's gone. So you have to be as present and as active as a parent as possible. Like I talked to you this morning before I came here. I went to the gym with them. They're my workout partners. We actually go to the gym and work out 5-6 days a week together, all 3 of us.
That's awesome.
It's such a fun thing to do. And I'm enjoying every moment of it, because I realize the time is very short, and you got to appreciate and be present with it. So I appreciate that. How long have you been married for now?
I got married in 2016, So April 20th, 2013. So we just had our 9-year anniversary. And we met in New York City, and she's Tara Jean Lowe, but we call her Mrs. Ballgame because she's the brains of the operation there. But you brought up something very good about like your kids watching you and mimicking you, and that's what I tell a lot of coaches is the kids that you coach. They're going to watch what you do way more than they're going to listen to what you say. So, the energy you have while you're around them and the way you move and the way your face lights up and the way you engage, like they watch and that mental picture sticks in their brain way longer than any words you preach to them. So I'm always talking about that, the action speaking louder than the words as far as a coach and a father.
Yeah, I love that. Let's talk about TikTok. I'm all over social media. I love social media. I really make the most out of social media. TikTok is one thing I haven't jumped on, and Brad's the one that actually. First thing he said to me goes, "Have you seen James's TikTok account?" I'm like, "No, I'm not even on TikTok. I have an account. I haven't activated it. Really use it as I should be using it." You said in college, in past college, you went to LA because theater and arts, and this is something you're utilizing now with TikTok. I see through all your videos and stuff like that. How have you applied everything you've kind of learned growing up and through college to utilize in your TikTok, and how you're growing in a lot? Let's talk about that, the social media, and how you've really utilized social media to build your brand.
Yeah. I mean, I was late to the party. I was a flip phone guy till like 2015. And then my wife and my sister-in-law are like, you got to get an iPhone. You got to start videoing, these things that you do and teach, and you working with the kids. So I got one of these iPhones. I figured out how to use the camera, and it started with Instagram. I didn't even know how to post a video on Instagram. And I had to send it to my sister-in-law, and she would post it and say, what do you want to caption it to be? And that started to slowly grow, where I would just pause my baseball lessons, or I'd pause my camps, and we'd have water breaks, and I'd have somebody hold up the camera, and I'd just teach him how to chew a sunflower seed, or teach him how to have a batting stance or grip a baseball correctly. And then I just post those, and slowly but surely, the followers started to rise, and my friends would comment on it and say, "This is great. This is different. You approach coaching differently." So I really set my mark on my brand with the Instagram. And then a buddy told me about TikTok, and I was like, why do I need to do the same? I'm already doing it on this button. Why do I need to use a different button to do the same thing? And he's like, just trust me. So I got into that maybe 2 years ago, and the engagement and the followers are triple Instagram as far as what I do. I use a lot of movement and, fun, dance, catchphrases, song, art. It's all a great mix. So what I'm able to do with Coach Ballgame when it's just me and 50 kids is marry all my interests. I have drums that I use. I'll put a drum in the on deck circle. I sit on a cajon drum, and I throw batting practice, and I'll beat on that drum just to liven up the party. I love film and television, and I learned from director friends how to edit, and really taught myself how to use iMovie, and now with TikTok and Instagram, how to edit video on the phone. And I'm able to kind of create these instructional videos. I'll go in my backyard and okay, how do I teach an 8-year-old how to throw a baseball? How do I teach a 5-year-old how to throw a baseball? How do I teach a 4-year-old how to catch a baseball? And I noticed there was this space where people had no idea. Even pro baseball players had no idea. How do I teach a 4-year-old how to catch or throw? So with that wide open space, I created this brand of video content where I can solve a problem. And with every video I post now, I'm like, okay, what problem can I solve? And the problems come into my email. People email or message me, hey, I'm having trouble with my kid dropping his bat. He swings under the ball, or he's chopping over it, or he has no confidence in the game. Practice, he seems very confident. So I'm able to hit on the psychology of coaching kids and the X's and O's with the TikTok and Instagram. And what it's created is a nationwide and even up to Canada, where I was just in Toronto, Sandlot tour, where folks reach out in Toronto and say, I know you're in California, but we could use what you're doing with this Sandlot idea of just making the game fun and building character and specializing in skill development. You don't even keep score. You don't have umpires. There's no uniforms. You don't even need real equipment. We like that message. Bring it to Toronto. Bring it to New York City. Bring it to Oregon, wherever it might be. So I've hit about 25 different states so far. And I have boots on the ground that have seen my TikToks, seen my Instagrams, and said, hey, we'll pay you to come out here just to put on a Sandlot for our kids and maybe a clinic for our coaches. So it's brought on a life of its own. And I thought, maybe this would just help a few people teach their kid how to throw the ball. And it's what it's done is it's opened up a nationwide tour, kind of like a band, where I can just go from town to town like Johnny Appleseed and spread the love of the game.
I love it. I love it. I love it. When you're coaching, what advice do you give a T-ball coach besides? Let's start with T-ball. Let's start with T-ball. What advice would you give? Because a lot of times when you're dealing with a T-ball, I would say 90% of the time there were parents that are coaching, volunteer parents. Even most even up to a rep level, a lot of them are volunteer parents that get till the kids are 13, 14 when they start getting to a more of a higher level of a rep level or AAA or whatnot. But what advice would you give a T-ball coach starting off for the first time? Yeah, and I've been through that. I've coached at that level. I just want to hear your mindset with it.
Yeah, I kind of break it up into four different types of players that you might coach. You've got the newcomer, the 4-year-old T-ball player who's never played but very interested. You've got the kid that's played Little League, but maybe they had a bad experience, or they're kind of just overwhelmed by that whole Little League experience. I'll get them to come to my Sandlot as well. You get that travel ball player, that elite player that's 13 years old and playing every weekend, and they're great at the game, but they don't realize how fun baseball is. It feels like work to them. And they'll come to my Sandlot and say, wow, this is actually fun. This doesn't feel like work. And then that fourth type is that teenager that has never played, but they look over the bushes wearing their blue jeans and they're like, that game looks interesting. I'd like to interact with those other kids. But the culture of baseball when you're 14 right now is, you better have played for 8 years and you better be really good or you're going to be spit out quickly. So those are the four types I see. For a T-ball player, make them want to come back tomorrow. Simple as that. Be the most fun version of yourself as a parent or a coach. And you're going to have 9 players on your team, 9 different personalities. You got to engage and connect with each one. And the way I do that is I come up with a nickname for each kid. So I've got a 4-year-old who's dialed in the first team meeting, giving me uncomfortable eye contact, just a very, very good listener. I might call them Laserbeam. Hey, your nickname's going to be Laserbeam. Then I got the kid that's climbing the fence that looks like a cat that's chasing a mouse, and I've got to really engage with that one and say, hey, what's your name? What's your nickname? You don't have one? What's your favorite animal? What's your favorite superhero? And once you start to connect with each of these different kids, then you start to meet them on their own playing field, and they'll do anything for you. They'll listen to you. They won't disrupt a team meeting. And they'll come back tomorrow because they know you care about them. So that's it. They're going to hit the ball and chase the ball. They don't really know the rules of the game, and that's fine. Your expectations need to be super low for that T-ball player. But can you make baseball so fun with water balloons and whatever kids love on your team? Bring that, Skittles, bubble gum, whatever. Then you've done your job. And then if you can build their character, if you can teach them how to listen and be kind to others without them even realizing it, that's like extra credit. So that's That's the T-ball. I didn't even get into skill development or winning games because those are down the list for me, especially with that T-ball player.
What age do you start to really hone in on developing the skills? And I mean, with our program here in Brampton here, we have a gentleman named Frank Fascia, which is the president of the league, and he's really into the development, right? He's really into, I mean, it's you go from AAA all the way to select to house league. There's structured programs for each level. There's certain, from arm care to, like, there's a level all the way through that everybody follows. What age do you feel like that you kids need to really start honing on obviously arm care and other aspects of the physical activity, and really toning in on really their skill level, really increasing? What age would you focus that on?
Yeah, it's a multifaceted question, but I do, even with the 3-year-olds, and I start them at 3, I'll teach them one simple thing about catching, which I call high five or meet, squeeze, and freeze, where, kids love to catch the ball like this. So I'll just teach that one simple thing about throwing.
Say that again. Meet, squeeze, and freeze.
Meet, squeeze, and freeze. Yeah. Okay. High five the ball with a meet, squeeze, and freeze. And I have a song for that as well.
What's the song? What's the song?
Meet it, squeeze it, meet it, squeeze it, meet it, squeeze it, but don't forget to freeze it. And then the kids start clapping to that, and then they go home singing that song, and their parents are like, what is that song? And then they can teach their mom or dad what they learned about catching a ball like that. So that's it. I won't teach them anything else. They don't about throwing. I'll teach one thing about that. When they get to age 6, 7, 8 years old, then I start teaching 2 or 3 things, right? So I'll have the meet, squeeze, and freeze, but I'll add maybe the footwork or, posture, things of that nature. But it moves up the line. Then I get to my 9 and 10, 11-year-olds, and then I can start teaching them things I learned, in college. Obviously, I'm not overloading them with content. I want to keep it very step by step, because again, the priority should be, this game's so fun that I want to come back tomorrow. So I don't want to overload them with so much lecture on skill that they're bored, or they're like, this is too overwhelming. No, it's fun. Number 2, build their character. So I'm giving out awards for good choices like kindness and respect and hustle. I'm not giving out awards for the ball player that hit the most home runs or throws it the fastest. That's great. We're going to acknowledge that, but the big awards are for character. And then my 3rd priority is skill development. And I think being able to coach private lessons to the elite player for 10 years prior to starting this kind of niche of Sandlot baseball, it really gave me a good base on when are kids ready to learn, the skill of throwing a 4-seam fastball or a 2-seam fastball, or long tossing, or driving the ball to the opposite gap. And it really depends on the kid. Some kids are ready to long toss earlier than others. I think you really have to connect with each one and kind of see where they're at. But I always lean towards simple is better. Let's teach the simplicity of the game. Instead of big steps when we hit, let's spread out wide and let's use our core muscles. And when you get on TV, then you can start adding the seasonings that you see Mike Trout do, or you see Francisco Lindor do. Like, let's teach him to crawl before you teach him to walk. So, that's a roundabout answer to your question. I know there's not one simple answer to it, but I think if you connect with your players and you understand where each one of them are, then that's a good first step.
Do you coach, besides the Sandlots, do you actually coach, or have you coached a national team?
No. So I don't coach.
Is that something you would want to do eventually?
It's possible. Right now, I have no interest in it. But I do like change, and that could be something cool down the line. What I think would be cool is take one of my Sandlot teams, all these kids in blue jeans, and I've I've kind of taught them how to love the game first and then play the game second. And I've taught them how to be good people before I've taught them how to win games. If I took that Sandlot crew and tried to compete against, that culture that's win at all costs, and you got to have the most expensive equipment, and parents are yelling at umpires, and coaches are holding on to every moment so they can win the trophy. That's a culture that I push back against. I think there's cons that outweigh the pros when you're looking at it like that. You're weaning out the non-elite player. You're teaching kids that yelling at umpires and winning at all costs is okay, and I disagree with it. So I'm pretty separated from that whole culture because I'm trying to change that culture, and I'm in the minority. I realize that, but I'd rather build up kids' hearts than trophy count.
I love that. I mean, you are. I mean, being around the sport, you are in the minority, and I think you're head on with that. But I do love what you're doing. Where's your mindset when you're talking about then, like, the kids at that competitive level, like Little League World Series, 12-year-olds that are there on the mound throwing 5-6 innings, 80, 90 pitch count? Where's your mindset with that? And kids, and especially now kids, you even hear stories, James. I mean, parents are opting for Tommy John surgery to their 15-year-old because they're like, let's get ahead of the game. Like, crazy stories you hear. And where's your mindset with that, with parents and that competitive level at such a young age?
So I'm not opposed to travel ball or elite play. I think it's necessary for the elite player. Yeah. They need that good competition. But you have to run into the right coach that's more about skill development than winning games. They're going to need Tommy John when they're 15 if their 12-year-old coach is making them throw 80 curveballs in a Little League World Series to try and win that game. I don't really remember how many Little League games I won. I really don't, but I remember coaches that inspired me to be a better person and to fall in love with the game. Again, the cons outweigh the pros when you're just trying to win a Little League game. And so you have to have those different spaces of rec ball and Little League ball and elite play. But it's got to be looked through the right lens of, we don't need to win today. We just don't. I mean, that doesn't make, this isn't putting food on the table for me if I win this game. Joe Madden needs to win today for the Angels because that he could lose his job and then he can't pay his mortgage. But not a Little League coach. You're trying to build good people. So if you're looking through the lens of big picture, I want this elite 12-year-old pitcher to be healthy when they're 18 and have the best chance to be the best athlete for that college coach to recruit them, then you're going to hold them to 50 pitches and you're not going to have them catch the second half of the doubleheader. You're going to take care of their bodies and you're going to make sure that they're not burnt out mentally either. If you're making it very fun, building their character and looking through that lens, then you're going to create a very good big brother one day and a great father one day, which is way more important than a Little League trophy winner that day.
I love everything you're doing. And it's crazy. I have a couple letters in my office here. A couple of the boys from the last team I coached, they all made it up to the AAA level. And two of them wrote me a letter, and I still keep it here. They hand wrote a letter thanking me for everything I did with them, coaching for 3 years and stuff like that. Those are the kids that would buy you the Christmas gifts and thanking you and writing you letters or sending you a video. So, I mean, those things are so special, right? And it just makes everything worthwhile, everything you're doing. So I appreciate that level of it. Where do you see yourself going with this? I mean, you're doing the Sandlot, you're traveling, you're branding, you're doing apparel now too, I'm assuming. I see your hat.
Yeah, we got the hats, and my wife, Mrs. Ballgame, has created Attaboy shirts and Attaboy hats and Attagirl tank tops and things like that, just to spread the vibe. I also do a lot of these salutes at my Sandlots, like the eye black salute and the head first slide salute, sportsmanship salute, and bounce back salute. all the different things you might get an award for, a baseball card, good choices, I'll create salutes around. So we're going to get apparel for that as well. But where's it going? I had a great I had a great phone call prior to the pandemic, and it was from a lady who was about 70 years old, and I didn't know her at all. But I was running these Sandlots here in Orange County, California, and she said, "You don't know me, but my husband just passed away after a long fight with cancer." And he was a teacher and a coach for 50 years. And before he passed away, he saw your documentary on YouTube about your message of creating good people on a baseball field and creating the next generation of baseball players through the Sandlot. And he said, in lieu of flowers, he wanted to raise money and send it to you. And I, of course, thought it was a prank call. This has to be a prank call. So I got on the phone with her son, and he's like, there's no catch here. This is what he wanted. So $20,000 later, Venmos are coming in from his former players and his former students. His name was Dave Schreckengast, and they called him Buppa. And we created this Buppa Scholarship Fund where people I didn't know were sending money to somebody they didn't know because of a message. And me and my wife are sitting here looking at this bank account, and we're like, what do we do? I said, the best thing I can do with $1, the best value I can give to that $1 bill is to meet a kid and coach them and give them a nickname and teach them how fun baseball is, and hopefully show their parent how fun baseball can be if you're looking through the right lens. Well, we decide to go on a Sandlot tour. We bring the two daughters, we fly to Dyersville, Iowa, and we do a Sandlot near the Field of Dreams. Then we rent a van and go to St. Louis and do the same thing there. Then to Chicago, Pennsylvania, and New York City. And this was last summer. And what I realized is this message people are thirsty for. They are hungry for just getting on a field for a few hours, cheering loudly, spreading positivity, building character, having fun. People are hungry for it. And I even ran into kids who had quit Little League Baseball because it felt too overwhelming. They'd have panic attacks at the tryouts, or, they just didn't like the game for one reason or another. They come to the Sandlot, they fall back in love with baseball. They ask dad to play catch the next day, and then they try out for their Little League team the next season, and they thrive. So I noticed there was a problem in youth sports where it's all about win at all costs, wean out the non-elite player, get the best equipment, and, Tommy John when you're 15 years old. I'm like, this is all absurd. I even had a 7-year-old kid come up to me and say, my travel ball coach won't let me play soccer because I got to play baseball year round to be on that team.
You hear that a lot.
That's nuts. And
I hear that. That's why I asked. That was one of the first questions I asked you today, because you do hear that a lot. Even, in Canada, I would say the last 3 years, 4 years, maybe 5, baseball has, you're seeing facilities open up, like indoor facilities, because obviously we only have 3-4 months of really good baseball here. So the winter facilities are needed for kids to develop, and you're seeing them popping up everywhere. You're seeing a lot of high level players that either played single A or double A that never made it to big leagues, like coming out and now running coaching clinics and really, really, really honing in their coaching. But you're seeing it just popping up everywhere. But it's at that point where it's developing so quickly, but the amount of pressure on these kids is growing at such a high level, right? You're seeing kids that you said that you're seeing kids at like 13, 14, the competitive level is so high that they're dealing with stress, anxiety. Like even when I was coaching, I would see that kids they would get anxiety to be up to the plate because it's not fun. It's my whole team's counting me to hit. If I don't get on base, or if I don't take a walk, or if I don't even get hit by the pitch, just get on base. That pressure's there, right? At such a high level, such a young age, right?
Yeah. So what are we doing here? What are we doing? And it became my mission to shine a light on that and say, that's a problem. Yeah. that is not, I think that coach is fueled by a win or fueled by a trophy, and maybe those parents are kind of sucked into this trap. This is what we've got to do if my kid's going to play high school baseball or college baseball. Incorrect. The cream's going to rise to the top. We've got phones where your kid can be a football player and a basketball player and a baseball player, and then somebody takes a video of them hitting a home run and sends it to the coach at Brown University, and you get recruited from them. Like, what are we doing with this specialization? So it's become my mission to shine a light on that problem and then change the culture. So thankfully, MLB has reached out and they've asked me to help coach their play ball camps, which is their initiative to grow the game of baseball. And
when did this happen? When did this happen?
Yeah, it's been a long process.
It's pretty amazing.
A good gig. It's a great gig, and I kind of auditioned with them pre-pandemic, and we love the partnership, and so. I'll go to New York City next weekend with MLB, and they just put on these play ball camps, and a lot of times it's for inner city kids, and it's free play, and I'll just bring my drum, and I'll give them nicknames and teach them how fun the game can be. But
good for you, man.
Thankfully they're on board with this message of we've got to change the culture, and we've got to make sure people are educated on
their message. They've been trying to push that message. If you see their, like I'm subscribed to the Major League Baseball channel, and when they do this, they have a lot of commercials where they're pushing the fun side of the baseball. They're pushing the inner cities playing baseball. They're pushing, because it's, I would say even a lot of the inner cities, baseball is not even a sport they look at. They look at basketball, they look at football as their exit out of these inner cities, right? For these young kids, right? Try to get to college and get the ticket out for their families, right? So baseball, I don't know how it is in the US, but I mean, from outside looking in, you tell me if I'm wrong or not, but baseball for years, it was almost like a higher level of more of an educated crowd, or more of a higher prestige crowd of kids would play baseball. It was almost like the golf kids, the baseball kids. It's a different from the inner city where it's like the football, basketball. Am I right with that? Was that like that in the past?
And talking to my hockey friends, same with hockey, where it's just very expensive. It's expensive to play that sport, and people think baseball's the same way. And it's like,
you think of hockey, a kid, like a 9-10-year-old kid has $130, $150 graphite stick that breaks after 4 games, and their parents are buying 5-6 sticks a season. Right. Their equipment, their travel, I mean, we have friends of ours that their son plays at a really, really high level. He's 12, and they're spending $14,000-$15,000 a year. Right. Crazy. And I'm complaining. My daughter's dance is anywhere from $9,000 to $10,000 a year at a high level too. Right. But sports it gets very expensive, and a lot of people can't afford it.
Yeah.
And you're losing out of a lot of extremely talented young athletes because you just can't their parents just can't put them in that situation, right?
No. And then they go play video games, or they go, internalize and do things without the social interaction. And you're not, there's so many life lessons to be learned from just playing on a team or things of that nature. So what's the grand mission now? It's to make baseball more affordable and franchise out these Sandlots that I'm doing. Because as I've noticed, when I go around the country, it plays everywhere. People love this birthday party on a baseball field. So now I want to find great coaches around the land and say, hey, do you want to run your own Sandlot? And even talking to my friends from Brown University who coach hockey, how can we make hockey more affordable? How can we start a hockey Sandlot? How about with a tennis ball and tennis shoes on a blacktop and play it that way, where you're not have to renting ice for $1,000 a day.
And that's how we started off. We were having this conversation the other day, James. Like, I grew up, ball hockey was a thing we played every single day. Like, I grew up where, we didn't have phones. We didn't have internet growing up. I'm 45. And you get home, you grab a quick sandwich, and you're out till it was pitch dark, and your mom would be screaming for you to get back in. And I grew up in Toronto, Canada, where we had laneways. And every single street, there were so many kids where every street had their own team. And we all had the same color t-shirt, and we would have teams. and have tournaments and have their own Stanley Cup. And every night it was this street against this street, and we'd have tournaments and we keep record. And this would go on all year. And then when it was baseball time, the same thing with baseball. We'd find a field and play, or even when we talked to baseball, my son plays competitive, but he was with his friends the other day, and they're at the schoolyard playing, and they're like, "Oh, we want to play baseball. There's no baseball diamond." I'm like, I went there with him. I grabbed my bat. I grabbed some chalk on the brick wall. I literally drew it's a rectangle, and you have your strike zone. And I said, that's all it is. Grab a ball. You have a pitcher, you have a hitter, and you guys are keeping score. If it hits it out with a tennis ball, and just have fun with it. And when they started playing, they were laughing and having so much fun with just a tennis ball in the bat and the glove. And they were just all rotating, right?
There you go.
Simple things, right?
I was just in Toronto 2 weeks ago running a Sandlot, and we were on a real baseball diamond at a park there in the outskirts of Toronto. And a league came by, and they're like, we have this field. And we're like, okay. We picked up our bases, we picked up our equipment, and we walked about 100 yards to a dog park, basically. And we put the bases down there. And we're like, here's the deal, kids. You can play baseball anywhere. You really can. And the beautiful
do you know what area? You know what area you're in when you're there?
I would have to look at my flyer. I've forgotten where it is.
Mississauga.
We'll look it up.
Mississauga, Brampton.
Yeah, it'll take too long on this podcast.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah.
It was somewhere. That was my first time to Toronto. So, we just moved a couple yards down and played baseball there, and we used a tennis ball mostly because, then we don't have to be so confined, and we don't have to worry about hurting other people or hitting balls into different practices. But yeah, the beauty of it is you can play anywhere. You can play with some chalk in the backyard, or you can play in a dog park. And that dog park, actually, you could tell it looked like people had played baseball there maybe 50 years ago. There were still the outlines of like a baseball diamond there, but nobody done it forever. And every town you go to, there's this soccer field or this old Sandlot with a backstop. And it's like, why is there a backstop there, but nobody's playing? Why is it just dogs running around? And it's because we think baseball has to have dugouts and beautiful foul lines and manicured grass. That's ridiculous. No. So many facets to this Sandlot thing that I'm doing. And who knew it would be novel? Just promote play, promote fun, play.
It's promoting essentially what you and myself grew up doing, right? And I was talking about this too also the other day, James. When I moved we moved into Sudbury when I got married. I've been married for 19 and a half years. Yeah, a little over 19 and a half years we've been married for. And when we got married, we moved to the suburbs, and it was a new development, new home. And we had a 5-year plan to live there. 19 and a half years later, we're still there. There's a reason we're still there. All young couples bought houses there, and we all started having kids at the same time. And we all had the same mindset of outdoor activity, outdoor playing. Our street, after school, kids are out there either playing basketball or either playing baseball, or they're always out there. And we all refused to move, and we all stayed in our homes because of just that environment, that trust, that neighborhood, that community. And that was something I grew up with. And my kids are fitness fanatics. Like, they'll come home and fight over who's going to be on the treadmill instead of the video game. They don't play video games. So it's a culture we've developed from a very young age. And I think parents need to start doing that from a very young age, and having individuals like yourself to really put that light on how fun a sport could be. Doesn't have to be competitive. It's so important. It's so important. So I absolutely love what you're doing, because I think it's going to really, really make kids more active. Yeah, obesity is a huge thing that no one's talking about as well for young kids as well. Video games, like you said, video games, sitting down in their room playing video games, becoming isolated, becoming inverted because they have no socialization, right?
Yeah, the towns I go to, and I go to all over the country, the towns that get behind their rec leagues and get behind their little leagues and look through this lens of inclusivity and get everybody playing and being active, those communities thrive, and it's funny how the smaller the town, the bigger the turnout. I'll go to Arcadia, North Carolina, and I grew up in North Carolina, and I'd never heard of that town, and I'll get 100 kids. But then I'll go to New York City and I'll get 9, or I'll go to Chicago and get 18. Even Toronto, it was in the teens. And I get it, big city. You don't want to drive all the way across town and do something. But these small towns, that's a lot of times where everybody knows everybody. And when I see towns where coaches are going about it the right way and they're trying to bring kids from all walks of life, all skill levels in, these communities really do thrive. Yeah, a lot to conquer here.
I love it. And it's funny because as you were talking, the first thing that coming, like being an entrepreneur for 26 years, I always look at everything as a business too, right? And as you were saying, I'm like, when are you going to start franchising this up? When are you going to start bringing coach? And you brought it up. I was actually going to talk to you about that afterwards.
Yeah. Well, and the story of that family, blindly raising money so we could go on this tour and provide free sandlots around the country. That spurred it on. That was like, wow, this plays everywhere. And so this next summer, people are signing up on our website and paying $40 to come. And that pays for our flights and hotels and rental cars to get to all these different cities and coach. But what am I doing now? When I leave, I say, okay, who's the heart and soul of this community? Who can take this ball and run with it and run a weekly Sandlot game now and build these kids' character and make it very fun? That's the new project. And I had a couple ladies at my Salt Lake City, Utah Sandlot. Speaking of TikTok, I had a dad who saw me on TikTok and drove his son out to my Orange County, California camp because he saw me on TikTok. And he's like, hey, I got a big community in Salt Lake City. I think you could run a Sandlot there. Fast forward 6 months, I run a Sandlot there, and I meet 2 moms who had played softball through college. They have kids of their own, and they have a chip on their shoulder. They notice there's a problem in this space, in this youth sports culture. It's just heavy, and it's negative, and it's yelly, and it's toxic. And they're like, we want to create a Sandlot in our town. So they came out to California. They watched me coach. They asked questions. They brought a notepad out. And they're going to start their own Sandlot this July, Coach Ball Game Sandlot in Bear River City, Utah. And I can just see if we audition right and we get the correct coaches, then there can be hundreds of these with coaches that maybe they've settled into a job they don't like, and then they can create this impact where, you know what, I can make a living like Coach Ballgame, coaching in the afternoons and over the summers, and it's life-giving. It's a job that's life-giving. That's why I do it, because I thrive on it. When I haven't coached in a couple of weeks, I got to take a week or 2 off. I miss it, and I get a little down in the dumps. It's like, man, I need that food. So I don't see it just being baseball either. I think kickball will be fun. I think hockey with a tennis ball on a blacktop. I think it can go as far as we want it to go. And now it's just about execution.
100%. Favorite baseball movie?
Field of Dreams. Me and Dad, every other Friday night or so, put the VHS in. I can quote the whole movie, and then it boils down to that last comment from Kevin Costner. Hey, Dad, do you want to have a catch? Like awesome. That's what the movie's about. It's a father-son, connection. And second would be Sandlot. I got to interview the writer and director of the Sandlot on my podcast, and it was great to hear him break down how he came up with the idea for the movie and the relationship in that movie that makes that film stand over time is Benny the Jet and Smalls, where Smalls is the new kid who has never played. And in this youth sports culture, that kid would be spit out. He would, right? You go play video games. You're not a baseball player, but Benny the Jet, the elite player, the travel ball player, the future major leaguer, he puts his arm around him and he teaches him the game.
Yeah.
Like that can only happen on a Sandlot. So that's fuel for me.
It's such a great movie. My kids have watched. I mean, we've watched all of them, but I mean, the first one is pretty special. Oh, yeah. And favorite baseball player, and current player and favorite pitcher, active field player and favorite pitcher.
Cool. Well, I got to say Andre Dawson, who was my favorite player of all time growing up, because I was a big Cubs fan and I just loved watching.
Expo, man. That's an Expo.
He was an Expo, and then he was a Cub.
I was so happy when he got into one of the greatest, such an incredible athlete.
And I was lucky enough to throw out the first pitch at Wrigley on my tour last summer, and I got to meet him and shake his hand. Yeah,
that's pretty awesome.
I've got the picture here and the ball, and how did
you set that? How did you set that up? Was you reached out to them, or they heard about you? How did that work out? That's pretty awesome.
Take a big guess. TikTok. They found me on TikTok, and they're like, I like this, how this guy engages kids. Let's see if he can make some videos on how to become the next Cubs fan. So I would make videos on TikTok. And the Cubs social media team would help me kind of write these little scripts out of how to tag like Javi Baez or how to play first base like Anthony Rizzo. And so I partnered with them on the social media side. And then when I passed through Chicago to do my Chicago Sandlot, they said, well, we want to invite you to throw out the first pitch. And I was like, you're joking, right? Like I'm a lifelong Cubs fan.
That's pretty amazing.
And, when you step into a place like Fenway Park or Wrigley Field, there's something extra. There's something special, and you just feel it. It's a feeling you have right when you step in there, and being able to go there and get on that mound. They invited me back just a few weeks ago. I did it again, and I was able to bring my drum. I have a Cajon box drum signed by Rod Carew, and I brought that drum out and I started beating on that drum and getting the crowd clapping before I threw out the pitch. And I think that's the only time a drum signed by Rod Carew was ever on that mound. So very proud of that fact. Awesome. There's some dreamy stuff that I've been able to experience, and I don't take it lightly. I really document everything that happens, and I'm writing a book right now called What My Friends Have Taught Me, because I've met Rod Carew in a gas station, and I've met Andre Dawson at Wrigley Field, and I've interviewed King Griffey Jr. and Ozzie Smith, and I've just had some cool things happen. So I try to document it.
How was Ken Griffey? I mean, that's a guy that I would love to get on my podcast. I grew up as a Griffey. I mean, '89 Upper Deck card that they overprinted. I was a huge Griffey fan.
Well, to
me, he's one of the greatest, if not the greatest, in my generation, greatest player.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he's my brother's favorite player. He was just magnetic and electric and different. Yeah. But my pal Joe Buck, he's opened a lot of doors. He's opened every door with MLB for me, and he got me an interview with King Griffey Jr. at the All-Star game in 2018.
Awesome.
In Cleveland. And I had heard maybe Griffey's not really, great with the media, things of that nature. Maybe he was the best.
See, I've heard the opposite. I've had a couple of people that have met him and said he was just a good, down to earth dude.
100%. So I don't know who was saying that, because he gave me like 30 minutes, and I think he's really passionate about kids and youth baseball, and he's working with play ball and MLB as well. I hope I get to meet him on our travels, but getting to interview him and just ask him, hey, what's your advice to me on being a youth coach? And his word was connect with each player.
Yeah.
Engage and connect with each player. So just a great interview. I had, MLB network cameras and other camera folks waiting on an interview with Griffey. And he just kept talking to me about youth baseball and youth sports. And I'm like, they're like, are you doing a documentary with him? And I'm like, he just wants to keep talking about youth sports. Sorry. So that was super special to meet him. And I've got this conga drum that I try to get every major leaguer that I meet to sign, and he signed it. So hopefully that big conga will get many Hall of Famers signatures on it and then wind up in the Hall of Fame.
I love it. I love it. It's tradition, right? You're building certain traditions for yourself and certain, I mean, years back, maybe 5-6 years ago, I always said when my son was at a certain age and if he loved baseball as much as I do, we would do this together. And my son from a young age really loves baseball. It's the only sport he really focuses on. He plays other sports, but baseball is his passion, right? And we started traveling, doing the whole dad-son traveling. So we went to Yankee Stadium, caught a home run ball there, which is the most highlighted, crazy day we had. And we do the whole experience. We take the whole subway to the actual venue and back and all that stuff. We did Fenway, which exactly you said, man. When in the seventh inning. When they start their seventh inning stretch, and it's just that electric, like there's nothing like Fenway. Like to me, Fenway was, and so we did Fenway, we did Pittsburgh, we did the Pirates, and we also do a minor league, AAA venue as well. So we did Myrtle Beach Pelicans.
Yeah.
We always do a minor league and we do a major league stadium every summer. And we do a road trip. We do a family road trip away from it, right? And then it stopped because of COVID. And COVID was Wrigley. We had everything planned. We had hotels set, everything for Wrigley. So
it's a short flight from Toronto, you know.
I like the road trips. I love road trips. I grew up with my parents doing road trips.
Yeah, my kids, were 2 weeks late for school this year because we were doing this trip across America. And I'm like, they learned so much more
100%.
Going to 6 different states and meeting 6 different, types of people and seeing Busch Stadium in St. Louis and then seeing Yankee Stadium in New York City. And they just learned so much more on these travels. So good for you.
Yeah, we love our road trips, man. I mean, I always say there's nothing that connects a family more than road trips. I grew up, my dad, every summer, my parents, my dad was a blue collar. I mean, he passed away a year ago, and he was my everything. But every summer, he would blue collar, worked at Ford Motors, but he would block all his vacation to the summertime. And every summer, those 4-week block, we would take off from Toronto, Canada, jump in the car, drive for 12 to 13 hours to Cape Cod and rent a little cottage on the beach. Every summer for 2 to 3 weeks, we'd be on the beach and we'd catch some Cape Cod league games. And it was just this fun time we did every summer. And those road trips were such memories. When my kids were old, and the first road trip we did was Cape Cod. And so we do these road trips because there's nothing that builds those memories. Like when we were in Myrtle Beach, we on the way there, we stopped in Virginia to kind of break up. It's a 24 hour drive. It's a long drive. So to break it up, we spent the night in Virginia, West Virginia, I think it was. And we spent the night there at a hotel, ate, chilled. And then we did the second part of the drive. On the way back, we're having so much fun there in Myrtle Beach. That's where we went to the game and we're having so much fun there that we decided to spend an extra night and we canceled a hotel in Virginia. And I said, I'm just going to go back 24 hours. I'm going to make it all the way back driving. And that drive back, I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. My son threw up in the car twice. The car smelled like barf. I almost hit deer 2 or 3 times. It was the most crazy, tiring. I was getting out of the car every hour to stretch. But we took so many photos on that drive and those memories that we sit back and we develop those pictures, those memories that one day when I'm gone, my kids will still be talking with those memories. So I think those are so special to build those road trips, build a connection with your kids that you can't get anywhere else. Sitting in a tight car, uncomfortable. Some kids are whiny. Sometimes you're happy. Sometimes you're singing. Sometimes you're pissed. It's just that those memories are so special. So I love road trips with the kids.
100%. And you get a timestamp on each town that you go to. And for me, life's about connecting with old friends, and making those memories. So we would see different high school, college friends across our travels. And my daughters would start to say, I can't do it anymore. I can't go to the next city. I'm saying goodbye to this group of people I've hung out with for 3 or 4 days, so kind of bringing them into my world a little bit and introduce them to all of my great friends. That is what life's about for me.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I haven't asked this question in a while. I used to ask this question to guests. If something were happening to you today in a few words, how would you want to be remembered or described by your loved ones?
Oof. I mean, I think it's kind of how Clemente is remembered. I tell Roberto Clemente's story to every kid I meet. And he, when he wasn't playing baseball, he would find airplanes and load them up with gifts and give to others. And he just, it's why 50 years after he's gone, we're still talking about number 21, is his impact on other people. I think on top of being a very present and fun dad, it would be he impacted others, and in a world that is really tempting to be mean and negative and sad and anxious and depressed. This guy brought a smile. He worked to bring smiles to faces and impact them and give them a good laugh. I think that'll do.
I love it. Anything you want to leave our audience with today?
Oh man, I'm good. This was fun. I loved chatting with you about fatherhood and youth sports, and you're doing a good thing, Jeff. Thank you.
I appreciate it. But when's your book coming out? When do you plan?
Well, we'll see. I need some accountability. I'm completing the manual on how to run your own Sandlot to get those franchise coaches going. And then what my friends have taught me. I don't think it'll take long. I've got about 25 folks that have given me, just little quotes that I live by each day to be a good dad and a good husband, a good coach. And I think it'll really help folks. So just keep pushing me to do that.
I love it. I did when the, like I said, I do vacation rentals, I do commercial rentals, I do all kinds of other stuff besides my other businesses, and I run a couple little online businesses. But when the pandemic hit, a couple of my businesses slowed down. So our business selling martial art and boxing equipment is directly wholesale to gyms. We design and manufacture stuff. The gym's all closed. So we're like, oh, okay, I got a little time now. And I've always wanted to write a book, and I took pen to paper, and within not even 12 weeks, I wrote a book. And it's called Entrepreneurial Dad, which became actually #1 seller in 11 categories. And then when my dad passed away, I wanted somebody to keep his memory going. And I wrote 2 books in memory of him. And they're just, one of them is called Strawberry Hill, A Lesson of Gratitude. And it's Grandpa Joe's Adventures. And it's my son, my daughter with my dad. And then the second one I did was Kindness Goes a Long Way. And they're just lessons, and all the proceeds go to Sick Kids Hospital, which is an incredible pediatric hospital in Toronto, Canada. So
well done.
So it's a process, but you have to going through it. You have to just, I'm going to block in time, and that's it. Whether it's early morning or late night, and you got to dedicate yourself. It's blocking time. That's the only way I did it. I would say, okay, an hour, 4 days a week. That's my time. It's slotted in my schedule, and that's all I'm doing is writing. And then once in a while, if you think of an idea, you just put it into your phone, but it was just like that. And especially you said you have these incredible stories and lessons already. It'll be so easy to put together.
Yeah. Love it. Well, thank you for the inspiration. That's awesome. Well done.
This is quick question too. How did you meet Brad?
Yeah, he just found me on TikTok and
is he not incredible for somebody that's it's crazy for somebody that was at that level. Like you're talking about Super Bowl winning quarterback, not Super Bowl champ, Super Bowl winning quarterback, which is there are only one per team and there's one every year. Like this is such a good dude. I've become really good. I've been really become friends with him. We talk a little bit. I mean, just a good human being. Such a good.
He said, and I'm passing through his town in Georgia to run a Sandlot late August, and he's like, "Don't get a hotel. You're staying with me. We'll cook you a nice dinner." And he's just a great guy.
Just an incredible person, man. Next time you're in Toronto, I'd love to meet with you and set up something. And like I said, I'm pretty connected in the baseball community here, so I could probably help you out there and help you connect something and work on something. So let's keep this conversation going. And when you have your book out, I would love to have you back on. And anything you need from my side, just let me know. And I appreciate it. This has been a fun conversation. I don't get to talk baseball much on this podcast because we do a lot of entrepreneurs, we do a lot of celebrities, influencers, And we get a lot. I don't know if you researched the podcast or not, but we've got a little over 2 million views in the last downloads and views in the last 12 months. Like this exploded in Canada. Exploded.
Well done.
So
Yeah,
it's been
great.
fun. It's been just for fun. Like I literally just have fun with it. And exactly you with your TikToks, like you don't put an angle to it. You just go out there, have conversations, have fun, put it out there, and if people want to listen, they listen. I had that mindset from day one because I didn't need to do it financially, and it's taken on a world of its own. So I have so much fun with it. And then a lot of people I'm getting a lot of my guests are just like Brad was like, you got to meet this guy. You need to have it. And you start building this network. And I love networking. That's another thing I do. I think networking is such an important tool for people to do. Network and build your community and build everybody around you. So everything about this podcast has been absolutely fun. So, and you do it as well. So I'm assuming you have the same idea with it as well.
Yeah, and it's really just a life giver for me and my pal Chad Chop. We said we got to make youth sports better. We got to make youth coaches better coaches and youth parents more educated parents, so we can make the kids better kids. And he knows the Mookie Betts and the Dave Roberts and the Clayton Kershaws of the world, so he would bring them in, and I'd bring in some of my friends. And I think we brought in some of the best. I mean, the biggest names in baseball, that's for sure. And they're all saying the same thing: make it fun, play multiple sports. The same message we're trying to preach. So
what's your podcast called?
It's called Talking Shop with Coach Ballgame and Coach Chop. And you can find it wherever you find your podcasts. But it's the same thing. It's a life giver for us. We need it every week just to see each other and chat and
I love it.
Make that impact like you. I think impact is tastier than dollar bills.
100%. This has been awesome, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.